Good day, or good evening, or good morning. I'd like to try and explain something about our adorable curriculum. I know when you join the school, when your parents join the school, we go through this with you, but I think it's useful to sometimes to just refresh people's minds. A curriculum, first off, is much more than what is examined, and I think we need to be clear that a curriculum is not a list of subjects or an exam, a particular exam is done at a particular time. Curriculum also refers to how it's taught and a list of the basic concepts that are to be taught. It's not just a list of facts. I think that's the first thing I'd like to try and highlight with people, remind people about, for instance. I think also that it's useful to differentiate between the junior curriculum and the senior curriculum. The junior curriculum, or what Nigerians call the JS curriculum, is what we call a Key Stage 3 curriculum, or what the Americans would call a middle school curriculum. So a middle school curriculum would be grades 6 to 8, and an English year 7 to 9, and Nigerian JS 1 to JS 3. In there, we use Nigerian subject names, but the Nigerian subject names don't define the limit of what we teach. English and maths are still taught as English and maths, but we also have this approach that comes from the International Middle Years curriculum, which is theme-based approach. Every half term they have a theme. In year 10 to 12, there is more choice for students, and students are always encouraged to choose a modern foreign language. And that modern foreign language, for instance, is very much not part of the Nigerian curriculum in a way, and that's why we are an international school. We don't dumb down our curriculum to fit the minimum required for a Nigerian course. We are an international school. And we encourage students to choose a modern foreign language. And yes, it's sometimes difficult to persuade them, but in this new world, Chinese becomes much more important. But Chinese is not a YX subject. Chinese is an IGCSE only subject. And all do. Everybody does the Nigerian only subjects like civics. So in terms of the rough outline, there is a blend across the years. And I think it's important to understand how IMYC works in grades 6 to 8, or middle years, or years 7 to 9, or JS1. That's the whole different terminology. First off, every lesson has a knowledge harvest, and that means lessons start with what do the children know already, so that we don't go over the same old work. Then they have a research activity, or an activity where they're finding out things, and perhaps that might be on the internet, but it might be from each other, from what other people have taught them, and it might be directly from what the teacher is giving them extra information, extra tasks to do. And at the end of the lesson, there's a review of what they've learned. And this cycle encourages links between subjects. So, for instance, each half term, there is a theme. And that theme, links across different subjects. And yes, they use notes, they record notes, they make notes in their notebooks. And yes, they use laptops, but not necessarily all the time and in every lesson. Students aren't allowed to open their laptops unless the teacher tells them to. So teachers are in control of their laptops and their use of laptops. And basically, these three letters, KSU, are key at this level, but they're also key I think, in everything that we as teachers should be doing. KS3U learning stands for knowledge, and if you like, this knowledge that they're going to know what Bernoulli's principle is, as an example. They're going to, and I'll explain what Bernoulli's principle is if you're not a physicist in a moment. And the skill might be how you use Bernoulli's principle to bend the ball in football, to bend the ball round a wall. If you're a football fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. The understanding is the understanding of how speed and pressure, speed on one side of the ball increases or decreases the pressure so that the ball moves round in a curve. So this idea of knowledge about Bernoulli's principle, being able to bend the ball itself and understanding how it works, connects this body of knowledge together, and then applying that knowledge into a particular place. For instance, what happens when you stand next door to a train on a station, in a railway station, and the train goes by at high speed? Are you sucked in or are you pushed away? So application, and likewise the application of what happens if you're an airline pilot or you're a passenger in a plane, of why the plane takes off, why the speed over the wing, one part of the wing increases the pressure, increasing lift. So this idea that you're just taught what Bernoulli's principle is much more. We do much more than that. We apply it to different situations, and we encourage the idea that students join up their knowledge into applications. So an example, for instance, of this sort of topic development in different subjects. In English, for instance, the topic might be how you make yourself understood. And in Year 7, it's about using language to control concrete and abstract ideas. So the idea of what you're taught in Year 7 is built on in Year 8 to adapt that knowledge, so adapt the language. So in Year 7, it's about using the language, and in Year 8, it's about adapting it to express more complex ideas. And then Year 9 is about manipulating language to express those complex ideas. And then in Year 10, again, extending the idea of complexity in the ideas of that they're trying to use, their language. And then in Year 11, create and use language to express those complex ideas. While in Year 12, they extend that. And English is, I always find it very difficult perhaps to explain that actually what happens is that the language gets harder or more complex. And skills like spelling, like how you write out an essay, for instance, or how you write out a letter to someone, they all get taught in context. You don't just get taught how to write a letter, but you get how to write a letter to perhaps the management of the school concerned about a particular idea. So taught in context. Likewise, in maths, for instance, if we're teaching and trying to get to the sine and cosine rule in practical situations, that might be the end. That's sort of the end definition in Year 12. And how you get to it is a series of steps that in Year 7, it's about using scaling and maps. In Year 8, it's about using bearings. In Year 9, it's about using bearings and scaling together. In Year 10, it's about starting to apply Pythagoras and the ratio, the sine and cosine ratios. And then in Year 11, about using the sine and cosine rules of a triangle for any size in any situation. While in Year 12, same work but extended to perhaps harder questions. But I'll come to that in a moment. And then perhaps in chemistry, progression, the changes how materials change. So in Year 7, they might be using the particle method to describe chemical reactions. In Year 8, they'd be using word equations to describe reactions. In Year 9, they'd be using those word equations, but also symbol equations to describe reactions. While in Year 10, they start to use chemical formula and chemical equations. In Year 11, the idea is the concept of electrolysis. And in Year 12, about stating the laws of constant composition. So again, a progression through topics. Now, we obviously have both internal exams and external exams, and I think it's important to recognise that the exams are checks, if you like, on what the student have learned. They're not the end in themselves. The end is the understanding. Do they understand what they're doing? Because while we can cram them while schools do cram them in and get results at a particular stage, that's no good in life. It's no good just being crammed in, because you're going to come up against a problem that you can't solve. RELPs are done, however, every week so that we can check where they've got to, and they're short answer objective style questions, and grades are awarded 1 to 10, and 10 being the top. 5 is about the same, grade 5 is about the same as a grade C, or 50%. So that you begin to know, in fact, that if they got a grade 9, it means they've got about 90%. A grade 10 literally means they've got everything right. And every third week, all subjects are covered. So the first 2 weeks, it's English, maths, and core subjects, core science subjects, or core equivalent subjects. Every term, we have longer tests, or longer exams, if you like, and written papers again in core, and every year decisions are taken on progression. And the decision on progression is based upon getting 5 grades at level 5 or higher, including English and maths. So if you don't get at least 50% in English or maths, and in English and maths, and 5 subjects, including those English and maths, people won't get promoted. We need to be absolutely clear about that. We've broadcasted in written format, we've broadcasted on every time that we talk to parents. So here is another opportunity to emphasise that. Of course, we have a number of external checkpoints on progress. So for instance, in year 7 and 8, we have the Cambridge Progress Tests. These are optional. In year 7, we also have reading level tests. In year 9, we have Checkpoint Cambridge, which is English, Maths and Science. We also, of course, do the local BESSY exam in year 9. In year 11, we have IGCSE subjects only, so those are the subjects like Chinese, English, Maths, Biology, Chemistry, Physics, but not civics, not the Nigerian-only subjects. In year 12, we have the WIAC and NECA subjects, but obviously not the Chinese ones, for instance, because that's only done at IGCSE level. Year 12, obviously we have JAM, and at the same time you can do the SATs in school. You can do the SATs here in school, where you are a centre for the College Board, for SAT, that's for entrance to the US. IELTS is not normally needed for our students, but we can arrange it here. It's not normally needed because actually IGCSE First Language English is what you need to prove that you are a first language speaker. So we have a range of these exams. And of course, we have competitions. So, last year, for instance, one of our students has progressed through so far through to the fourth round of the Olympiad, Maths Olympiad competitions. So there are a number of external checkpoints on progress. A great curriculum is much more than just the exam. It's more than a list of subjects. That's what I'd really like to emphasise to people. And I say this is a reminder of something that I say to new parents when they come in. And it gives the students the skills that they need in life. Like, for instance, empathy. Like, for instance, teamwork. Like, for instance, creativity. And in this day, in this sort of present time where AI is becoming one of the buzzwords in education and in life, if you like, these words of these skills of empathy and teamwork and creativity are highlighted continually as the things that will help our students prepare for their next step in the learning language, in the learning sort of life, if you like. Life is much more than just an exam. yes, we prepare them for exams, but we do much more. We prepare them for life.